So I'm here today with Nick Quin from One New Zealand. Nick is the General Manager of Public Sector. It's based in Wellington. We're in Wellington today. And One New Zealand is a major telecommunications provider in the New Zealand market. I'm really excited to talk with Nick because we've had a long partnership with One New Zealand, so going back to 2010, I think it was, a little while. And I also think that partly because the networks are just so well designed and built and maintained that it can just be really easy for us to value, not see like the value that's created here because it's all in the background. So I think it'll be really exciting just to talk to Nick and be able to share some of those details around how that works and what One New Zealand does for customers. So Nick, thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. What I'd like to get started with is just a little bit of your background and some career history and then how you came to be at One.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll try and keep it brief. Okay. I always start my career story with the fact that my first job out of university was a private investigator. Did that for 9 months. Okay. I wouldn't say that was what drew me here, but I did a Bachelor of Arts in Geography, believe it or not, and found myself in London pretty early on in my adult life and fudged my way into a couple of jobs in the finance sector. So my sort of first career move actually was playing around in the finance sector, and I moved back to New Zealand in the mid-90s, where I started actually working did a little bit of a brief job with Westpac Bank, supporting their dealing room technology, actually. Got connected to the company Reuters through that. And then after some more travel, I ended up working for Reuters in Wellington, providing technology solutions to the finance markets. Then went to
Sydney. So just dealing room?
Yeah, but basically the trading room. So okay. Yeah.
For commodity, like what sort of thing? Anything?
Yeah, for, FX trading, derivatives trading. Okay. Back then in Wellington, there were a lot of dealing rooms, weirdly, in Wellington. There's none now, really, of note. So that was an interesting little period of time, but really what I became interested in through that was working for, I guess, technology companies selling those solutions to customers. I felt a natural draw to that. So I then went to Sydney and ended up, working for about 14 years for a Danish company looking after the Asia Pacific business, and ended up in the managing that subsidiary. And then lifestyle change. Met my wife from Perth, had a couple of kids in Sydney. And then came back to Wellington, very conscious lifestyle choice to come back and have our kids have more of a Kiwi upbringing than a Eastern Sydney one. Okay. And that's worked out really well. And when I came back here, I ended up working for a German company called SAP, running their public sector business. And then this opportunity at One New Zealand came up just at the end of last year. So I've actually only been in the role for just over 3 months. But thoroughly enjoying it, yeah. I
think it's great to have, sounds like you've got such a rich career history with a range of different companies and being in a communications provider that services every kind of market. It sounds like there's a lot of great experience to be able to draw on for this particular role. Yeah, look, I think it works out. And look, it's given me an opportunity to lead a team in a very open way. The leadership here is really compelling. The values that they display and live by, I very much align to. So that's a sort of a breath of fresh air. So I'm really enjoying that opportunity. They're giving me the opportunity to lead as I want and focus on the customers in a way more intentional way. It's built up into a really, really interesting role that I'm really pleased I'm in at the moment. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds great. What does your team look like? What does a day-to-day kind of thing look like? Is it mostly talking to customers about new products? Is there a piece around servicing existing customers? How does that all?
Well, it's a combination. My direct team are account directors and key account managers. So they have a territory that they look after. So they're responsible and accountable for all of the activity we do with those existing customers. In some cases, we look to target growth areas where we don't have a footprint in other customers or accounts, prospects. So the work is largely supporting and servicing existing technologies in there. But, as with any technology firm, if you're not growing, you're not really living. So there's always a demand. We have obviously Infratil as our owner, and quite rightly they expect growth in the territories that we operate in. So there's a big part of the role is to find new ways we can be relevant and new ways where we can enable and solve problems in our customer base. We're using our technology. Obviously, we live in a competitive landscape, so there are other people trying to do that. So our goal is to primarily service the customers well and support them well, but we are looking for where we can take innovation to customers with other solutions and services that we provide. But that's my direct team. But we have a lot of resources that sit around those account teams, service delivery managers, we have project managers, we have project resources, enterprise architects, solution architects, very senior technical engineers that have to solve, very meaningful, technology challenges. So it's not just my team. My team lead their account teams, but there's a lot of support around them.
Yeah, okay. And thinking about what a really good customer relationship looks like, what works when you're having a fantastic relationship? What sort of the key ingredients do you think that looks like?
Yeah, look, I mean, clearly you want a trusting relationship. Now that doesn't happen just because you ask for it. Yeah. Look, I think best practice is where you have a really sound and robust governance around the relationship. So there's real clarity of roles and responsibilities. There's strong alignment up and down the organisation. So you have relationships in different parts of that organisation, from the top table all the way down. You have regular connections that are scheduled and very intentional. So operational, strategic, and sort of executive level. So that foundation provides a really compelling way of interacting with the customers. It gives them a forum to communicate with us in a formal way, and vice versa. On from that, we have to, on our side, be really effective in how we think strategically and thought-provokingly, if you like, on how we can challenge the customers on where else they can be improving how they work with us, or, as I said before, bring in innovation. So that strong planning process overlaid with really strong governance throughout over an extended period will typically build a trusting relationship. Now, none of that matters if when we sell a product or we provide a solution or a service that doesn't work. Now, clearly that has to happen. So we need to have a really robust, we need to have a robust and resilient and secure network, for example, whether it's a mobile or fixed network or over the internet networks that we provide. We need to make sure that is always where it needs to be, and that's why we have a whole technology part of our business that spend a lot of time and a lot of money on making sure those networks are resilient, they increase their coverage, they are faster, and they are super secure. So that's without that capability, it doesn't matter how good your governance or your planning is, right? Yeah. So it takes the whole village of One New Zealand and everyone doing their roles to enable a successful relationship. Yeah.
So, just summarising a version of that, to trust someone, you can't just ask them to trust them, you've got to back it up with delivery. Yeah. And to back it up with delivery, you've got to be able to deliver on the actual thing that you're promising the customer in terms of the network reliability, all those pieces. Yeah. But then on top of that, particularly for larger deals, larger customers where there's a lot more moving parts and things to it, you need to have a very clear understanding as to who does what job.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to have really clear expectations internally. We need to have set clear expectations with our people on what's expected. And And we need to make sure that we are aligned, those expectations are aligned with the customer. So we're actually working on the same things at the same time that are going to actually bring value to them, because you can get in a trap when you're working in technology to get really excited about your latest product, and you want to go and talk to them about it. If it's not relevant to them in that moment, it's good to inform them on roadmaps and all that, but you've got to be careful not to get trapped in that. So you're always checking in, making sure you're doing the right things by the customer, and you want to make sure you're connecting at the top table as well, that we're aligning to their initiatives and their priorities. Yeah, so it's a constant evolution, but it's what makes the job really interesting. It really does. Like every day is different. There's a new challenge, there's a new problem, there's a new opportunity we need to sort of try and execute, and a campaign that we want to run, and so it's good fun.
Yeah, that's really good. I've when I was probably 16 or 17, I was working in a retail technology shop. It's called Magna Mac, and I've actually told this story probably anywhere else before, but
Okay. It's an exclusive.
It's an exclusive story to this particular thing. But I remember I was super interested in like the new technologies that were coming out. Like there's a GarageBand thing, and so someone would come in, and I just always want to give them the GarageBand demo, because you're like, I just thought it was super cool. You could do all this new stuff on the computer that you couldn't do before, and just came with the computer. But it was really just going back from there and learning that fundamental thing. And I think it doesn't matter what size the customer is, but what are their needs? And I think just going back to that, the very first thing, what does this customer need? Sometimes they don't understand their needs. They might not be very clear, and so you have to work with them to actually really dig and get that out. But
I would say that's quite often the case, actually, and that's when people that really excel in this work are able to sort of flush that out by having the good relationship. You've got the credibility, so you have the right to have those conversations, so you can challenge customers a lot more, and and the more relevant you are to them, the more you can have those conversations, and that's when things get really exciting, and that's why for us, SpaceX is the fun new technology that's coming, and we're incredibly excited by that. And every customer I've talked to in the last 6 weeks or so, I've been in ministers' offices talking to sort of private secretaries about this capability, and everybody is really excited by it. So that's it's not often in the telco space you get something really revolutionary, and we're really excited about what this collaboration with SpaceX is going to deliver for Kiwis, right? So it's going to be coverage like no one's ever seen before. Obviously, there's great cell phone coverage around the country. I think about 60% of the geography is covered, and nearly 99% of the population. But there are obviously plenty of use cases where that geographical gap will cause problems, right? Both from a safety point of view, but also just a general coverage point of view. So people can do their jobs, whether it's a nurse or a doctor or someone in the health sector, whether it's someone from MPI or PAMU, one of their lone workers on a sort of remote farm, even out in the terrestrial waters around the country, recreational fishermen or MPI fishery people. So that's a game changer, and that's why it's created a lot of excitement with us, and it's not a problem getting people to talk about that, I have to say. So there's a lot of interest in following that up. Yeah.
So this technology, the with SpaceX, is the same that we use day to day as consumers using our phones, or it's a different sort of technology? How does it fit in?
Look, the infrastructure that's required, I'm sure, is different. I'm definitely not the expert. Okay. But in a really crude way, what we're doing is we're sending up cell towers onto satellites as part of the Starlink constellation of broadband satellites. Okay. And later on in 2024, we'll be supporting direct-to-cell SMSs. Right, so it's just texting this year. And then
but that's in a couple of months, effectively.
Yeah,
because we're in beginning of July. So I think October, November timeframe. Now we are reliant on obviously the SpaceX launches, and they are impacted heavily by obviously external factors like the weather.
So it's a function of having enough satellites to be able to support the capability. Now, the texting doesn't need as many satellites up in it's actually in the low Earth orbit. That's where they go up to, traveling at 27,000 kilometres an hour. And interesting fact here, which I love telling people, is as the satellites move out of sight of New Zealand, they hand over the data to the other satellites using laser technology.
Okay. So they have a laser link between the satellites, and so basically, if I'm connected to this satellite over here, and then I've sent the message, and then that one needs to go to the other one that has a laser link between the two that then communicate.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funky, it's unbelievable, right?
And do you know how many satellites will need to be in orbit for this service to launch here? Like about, is it?
I think it's around 300, I think, for SMSs, but you need a lot more to support a phone call and for data. So next year, 2025, our plan is to launch the voice and the data capability, but they need... the CTO might throttle me if I get this wrong, but it's around 2,000. I think it's around 2,000. So you need a lot more because you got to have enough satellites covering the country at the same time to be able to support the call. Yeah, so
it's exactly the same technology, but it's just that you need the number of satellites there to be able to actually.
Yeah, so you'll receive if you're out of cell phone coverage. You will, if you've got the right sort of phone, the right sort of device, then it flicks over to being able to, it's optimized for receiving satellite communications. So you'll just be able to send a text as normal. You don't need to do anything differently, and you receive it as normal, and the same when you receive a phone call. Now, it's not going to be data in the sense that you could be out on a boat streaming the All Black match live. Like, it's not that to that level. I don't think it would ever be that. But from a coverage point of view and an ability of productivity and efficiency and for the country, but also the safety factor, right?
Well, I mean, it's probably a good segue to talk about New Zealand Police. Because we started, One New Zealand signed a deal with police, I think almost 10 years ago now, to say, how do we bring mobility to frontline policing? And that's been a fairly significant journey in terms of working out, well, what are devices, what do we use? I remember we started off with iPads and iPhones, and then understood that actually iPhones are the best form factor based on what we needed to do. But the use case there with satellite connectivity is if you're doing a vehicle stop and you have no coverage, suddenly you have coverage, and then that small amount of data that you need, which just says, tell me more information about this vehicle and the registered owner and other details, so that you can have that safety awareness going into a situation.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I mean that our Smudge collaboration with police is world class, and it's, I mean, it's one of those corporate memories that people really hold on to here and they're incredibly proud of. And the fact that it's ongoing is also a good sign of how valuable that's been. And obviously we're looking at other ways where we can take that capability to other government departments, right? But yeah, the safety factor is just huge. And when there's the next emergency, the big problem with cell phone coverage and connectivity when there's been a flood or an earthquake or whatever is actually power to the cell towers. So it's actually not the cellular network doesn't go down, the power to them goes down. So all of a sudden you could be, I don't know, we're in Wellington now, touch wood, earthquake, no cell phone coverage. As long as you've got line of sight to the sky and you're a One New Zealand customer, you'll be able to connect and communicate. Yeah.
That's a really powerful.
Oh, yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, the safety factor is one I think is the most compelling. Yeah.
I mean, I think just as residents of New Zealand, doesn't almost matter where you live now, we've probably been through some significant weather event where the cell phone towers have had to go to generators for a period of time, and then and then you have to go and power them. I remember I was in the Christchurch earthquakes and had that kind of experience where it was, firstly just the load on the network for a period of time, but then the battery use and the generator use, and there's less towers available.
Right.
So you're talking before about delivering different services for customers. Can you just talk about a few specific ones that those might look like that you'd deliver a custom solution for?
Yeah, sure. And look, bear in mind that, you know, I work within the enterprise part of One New Zealand. So obviously there's a large consumer part and there's a wholesale part to One New Zealand. So in the enterprise territories, what we obviously provide, you know, fixed and mobile connectivity. We have our own. I think we're the second largest owner of fibre in the country. It's about 11,000 kilometres around the country, and there's some other stats I'm not going to remember now. But that's a big part of our business. So owning that's owned fibre by us. So connectivity into buildings is important. Providing obviously secure and resilient and high-speed connectivity for people that are working in a hybrid environment. That became super relevant for during COVID, of course. We manage, you know, when you think about a mobile phone needs to be provided. You need to be able to source the device. You need to be able to have the connectivity through the SIM card or the eSIM now, and you also need that fleet of devices, which could include laptops and tablets, to be managed as well. So there's a managed service wraparound for all of that. That can extend to things like proactive insights, where we can provide our customers with information around, you know, the asset management information around that fleet. You might have a laptop that you only really use Excel or GarageBand on, and you haven't used up too much of the battery life, or, you know, so you could extend the use of your laptop another year, and therefore you don't have to refresh your one, you know, so you can optimize the cost of managing these devices, right? So there's a lot of service management wrapped around that. We have a big part of the organisation that a consulting or professional services part of the organisation. So we help customers build bespoke networks. We're doing a lot of very, very important work around the country right now for a big agency, building a new network for them.
And why would someone need a bespoke network? Why? I mean, at a consumer level, you go and you get sent a modem in the mail, and there's just a standard template that gets set up for everyone. What kinds of things would someone need a bespoke network for?
Well, you might need it if you need to communicate to a large group of people over a large geographical landscape. So that's not covered by, you know, you think about the buildings over here, they'll have fibre connectivity right into the building, right? If you need to create connectivity and communicate with devices outside of urban areas, there's not fibre already there. So you have to build specifically the fibre and the connectivity with the appropriate speed, and and connect to those devices and pieces of hardware. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it might be a case of an organisation has 100 sites across the country, and there's some that have specific connectivity you can already get, and others that still need to have a service level that's there. And so is it a wireless link? Is it a fibre link? What are the different cost models to provide those, and how do we build that out? And by the time you multiply that by 100, it's just a large project to manage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and some of these solutions are mobile. So obviously we can provide a network for an office purely internet, driven over the internet. The idea of having a private 5G connection is one of the sort of the next round of that innovation. So a lot of companies will have Wi-Fi throughout their building. A 5G solution can be way more secure, can be faster, and greater capacity, right? So there's that capability as well.
So has some buildings running that out now? So rather than running Wi-Fi, they would just do 5G, or is it?
It's on the way.
Okay.
Right. So that's an evolution of the way to deliver connectivity to businesses.
So basically it means then I could turn up with my laptop or my iPad or my iPhone or Android device and be able to connect it straight into the 5G. And so I don't even have to configure anything on my phone or laptop. It's just, I've got an eSIM and I'm registered and I just turn up.
You're registered to that network, yeah. So that's on the way quickly, that sort of technology. I think it's really important though. I think one of your first comments was, I think, around how people just assume that a network is there and it works, right? The effort that goes in and the investment, it's hundreds of millions of dollars every year. One New Zealand invests in our mobile coverage every year. So we're constantly investing. So you're upgrading from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G, etc. And you're also increasing the coverage. You need to create more density of coverage. So and you overlay that with the security side of it. We build in a lot of security capability into our network. So I think since 2003, we've had the what's it called, malware-free network. It's something like, what's the number? Several million malware attacks have been stopped by our integrated inherent security capabilities. So the investment that goes in is huge. And it's interesting, as I'm new to the telco sector, and I've found it really interesting to note that all of this investment goes in to mobile networks, to fibre networks, etc., and in now our case, SpaceX. And there seems to be this expectation in this sector that prices should go down for consumers or business, whereas everything else, every other part of it
stayed the same, it goes up too.
Yeah.
I think so almost every other sector, the service stays the same or sometimes decreases and the price goes up. In this one particular sector, the expectation is the service level keeps increasing significantly.
Faster, quicker, it's more secure, and yet
the price is expected to go down.
So there's a bit of there's an global industry challenge actually in the telco industry around that, and it's a bit of a conundrum.
It's almost like the air we breathe or water. It just feels like it's such a you just expect that it's...
Well, it's so pervasive now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's connected pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
We're connected now. Used to have to be in near Wi-Fi. I remember you used to have those Wi-Fi spots around town. Now you're just everywhere. And obviously data plans allow people, it's way more affordable. And
I remember when the very first iPhone launched in New Zealand, I remember I came to the launch of it in Wellington because I happened to be here at the time. And there's a guy, and there's a line, because at the time people lined up to go and get them. And so I was at the Vodafone at the time store. And there's a guy sitting there with his laptop with an antenna this size to get the Wi-Fi from his building or something, That was 15, 16 years ago. And that was just, you didn't have that coverage to use internet while you're just standing out on the street.
So, look, it is a challenge, and it's also, another challenge in this sector I find is finding a way to be different, finding a way to differentiate, and that's why the Smudge relationship for us, where we collaborate on app development, rounds out the mobile story, with police and hopefully others, where we're managing the devices, we're managing the fleet. We're working on the app development through you. But they're really, really powerful differentiators. And look, there's a lot of stuff we can't control out there. And one thing that we are also always willing to share with people is, for the third year in a row, we've won what they call the Best in Test. Which is a third party does an independent review of the mobile networks in New Zealand. So third year in a row, voice and data and something they call crowdsourcing. We were ranked highest in all of those categories for the third year in a row. So that means a lot when you're a mobile carrier, to have that, endorsement and proof that it's actually the most reliable network. And then we add the SpaceX story to it, so we'll have, greater coverage than anyone else, and help Kiwis feel safer. Yeah.
Just touching on the point about working in partnership, I think for us, when we're building and working on creating a really great application, to me, the application without a network isn't a story.
Yeah.
Right? Because, we make this great application on a phone, and if no one could go and access data from head office or understand what's going on, it's just not a great story. And the part to me about the partnership that really works is all about problem solving for the customer, which is, right, this is what needs to happen, this is how we need to make it work, and there's just an open line of communication between everyone that needs to make that happen. And there's always, within technology projects, never been on a technology project where something doesn't go wrong.
Of course.
Like that's the expectation. But the piece to me that makes it work is having people that can problem solve across the whole stack, that you go, is this a problem here, is there a problem here, and then we can work together to make it work for the customer. I think that's the piece to me that, in terms of that partnership piece, what does the customer needs? How do we get in front of them? How do we understand them? And then how do we work together as a team to deliver the parts that we do well?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So look, I digressed a little there, but just coming back to some of the other solutions that we provide to the enterprise sector, we partner with a company called Genesis, who provide the application layer for contact centres. So actually we this year won their Asia Pacific Partner Award for our inland revenue contact centre deployment. So again, those things are meaningful in our sector to be acknowledged for that capability and that success for that project for inland revenue, who are they've got a really significant contact centre. So the ability to provide, the 0800 capability, the calling capability, supporting all that contact centre capability with our partnership with Genesis is a big part of it. IoT, we provide a lot of IoT devices as well. So yeah, there's lots of things that normally come back to connectivity or communications. A network, connecting people, and then allowing communications to be really effective and productive. Our ambition is to be sort of an exceptional connectivity provider across mobile and fixed.
Yeah, so another piece of news that just came out recently was the naming rights for the new stadium in Christchurch. And as a resident and Cantabrian, it's pretty exciting news for me, and it was great to see One New Zealand being the naming partner. How does that feel? How did that come about? Have you got any thoughts on that?
I had no pre-warning for that.
Okay.
I did know JP was going to Christchurch for an announcement on that day. He did tell me that. However, I did not know it was coming. When I heard it, I had so many of my friends and family message me, "Oh, look, it's a real buzz. It's a real buzz, right? The newest, most modern stadium in the country. It's going to be a killer stadium." So to get, as a Kiwi-owned company, where everyone that works here really does feel that, and that was one of the draw cards for me to come here. It means a lot, and it's going to be an opportunity for us to showcase our technology. It's from the ground up. Yeah, so my flights to Christchurch will be increasing in the next couple of years. Yeah, look, it means a lot. It created a lot of buzz. To me, though, the most exciting thing is for New Zealand, we're going to have a really modern stadium that is going to have this new amazing technology that's used overseas a lot, and it's going to be showcasing One New Zealand's technology, which, for me, working here is a real buzz, So it was a great announcement,
Yeah, such exciting news.
Yeah, and it's great for Christchurch, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. I can actually see the stadium really well from my house. Okay. So I've been watching it growing up. I'm very much looking forward to the first fireworks display from the stadium.
Yeah, well, it's just frustrating. It's still a bit of a wait.
We're used to waiting in Christchurch now, I think.
And as I said, it's probably a good talent retention program for One New Zealand, I think. Yeah, keep people around.
Well, thanks so much for spending the time having this conversation today. I think it's been really useful. I've definitely learned a little bit, particularly about the satellites as well, and looking forward to the launch of those later this year. And really appreciate the partnership.
Good. It's always a pleasure, Reuben. Good chat. Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you.